Chapter 3. The Saga Begins. The shuttle gently landed at the entrance of the Olympia Hall in Salem. They waited for the overhead dome to lift, but before the children knew what was happening, the shuttle disappeared out from under them. They found themselves standing under the hall's portico. Orr stood before them in brilliant radiance. His beauty and uniquely huge form made it difficult to clearly make out his face. However, none of them had tried very hard, but this time was different. He stood so close that the children became aware of his vagueness and started staring hard at him. As they did, he smiled and a pristine light streamed from his face. A slight terror came over them as they watched Orr's form pull in different directions. Rashawn gasped as he realized that he was witnessing the revelation of Orr. The light intensified and the children shielded their eyes. When the brightness subsided and the children looked up, there stood three individuals, Jerahab, Kohengal, and Nikamabed. "I have dreamed of this since I was a child," whispered Rashawn. "I have always known Orr was of multiple facets, but I never thought I would see them all together as individuals." Mia grabbed her brother Miklehi's hand. Miklehi shouted out, "I knew there was something different about Orr. I have seen that one in my dreams," he pointed to Kohengal. Kohengal laughed, which put the three of them into a pleasant roar. "Well, I see some of you know who we are," started Jerahab. "Together we are in our full glory. Orr. I am Jerahab the father, and this is Kohengal the heir, and Nikamabed the advisor. It is our intention that you learn the story of old so that the story might be completed by your generation. You will be the leaders of your era and must learn the patterns within the story in order to choose rightly and survive." Nikamabed blinked slowly and turned toward Jerahab. Kohengal took a deep breath as if understanding Nikamabed's gesture. Rashawn leaned over to the children and whispered, "They can communicate as one. Some might say it is telepathically. They even know your thoughts." Immediately, Miklehi and Connor's eyes widened at the idea. Kohengal looked at them and said in a jesting tone, "It is true, I know your thoughts, but I will not tell anyone." "Back to business," Nikamabed interrupted. "I trust Rashawn has answered all your questions and has explained that before you can continue into the Book of Tabnethiod, your presence must become undetectable. This requires you and Rashawn to move beyond the brazen door of the Olympia Hall and into the hall's smaller theater. Rashawn, you will need to read the Book of Tabnethiod just as you have been trained to do. It is vital that your meter and precision be accurate. Your words will order the space of the theater to the proper sectors and exact events that the children need to see. None will be aware of your presence except for us." "Will we be traveling as we did in the shuttle?" asked Rashawn. "No, everything will be brought to you, but only if you remain precise," answered Nikamabed. "The screen of the theater will bring all that is read to life. Even though they are your words opening the text, the children will see the actual events unfold before their eyes." With that said, Jerahab escorted Rashawn and the children into the Olympia Hall and to the brazen door. He unlocked it and carefully swung the door open. Rashawn led the children into the small theater. The concave roof spun with activity. The theater gave the children the illusion of being in the presence of whatever was on the screen. The children were immediately confused. Thousands of different events were taking place at once. Many of them covered their ears from the cacophony of noise bouncing through the theater. Even the flickering of images was a visual overload. "What is going on?" asked Joshua. "I don't understand any of this," shouted Mia. Jerahab raised his arms and halted the activity. The screen went blank without a word spoken. "Children," he began in a low voice, "when you entered the first age, your memories became tools for the picture that I am about to paint in your mind. There are no earthly events here in eternity. Therefore, from here, everything happening can be seen at the same time." All the children had blank stares on their faces. This was a difficult concept for them to understand. Erin thought to herself, how is that possible? Knowing her thoughts, Jerahab shifted his gaze to Erin. "In the second age, everything is subject to earthly time, not eternal time. Think of a procession or parade. "I like parades," Alyssa blurted out with a huge smile on her face. "I know you do," responded Jerahab before continuing. "When you watch a parade, you are subject to viewing it in sequence. You are only able to see what is before you. But again, that is because of the restriction of time on the second age. However, if you watch the parade from above, in your shuttle, you would see the parade in its entirety. Our view is much like watching the parade from the shuttle. There is no time restriction. Everything is simultaneous. I have placed you within this theater in order to fully access the Book of Tabnithiod. As Rashawn reads the book, you will experience the events in a sequence that will help you better understand eternity's account." When the screen lit up again, the cosmos was in full view. The stones of fire decorated the theater. The children felt as they were floating in the middle of them. Quickly, they took their places, and Rashawn took the stool at the head of the theater. The stones of fire filled the entire 360-degree screen. Once everyone was situated, the theater door shut with a click that echoed in the room, but it was as if the sound was resonating throughout the cosmos. Rashawn turned on the floor lamp next to his stool and opened the book. He found the place Orr had marked for him to begin. With the first words, the scenery changed, and the group was back in Olympia with Sar and 2 Malaks on the screen. Rashawn settled in, ready for the adventure. Sar and 2 other leaders, Shotar and Nagad, had just been dismissed from a meeting in the Olympia Hall. The air outside was refreshing. The cool, pleasant breeze that constantly blew in Olympia felt good to the 3 as they made their way down the steps. "If the 2 of you do not mind, I would like to review our latest assignment," began Shotar. "We could move toward the wooded area." He pointed to a secluded spot just beyond the Olympia Hall. Sar appeared somewhat distracted as he hesitantly looked around. "I assume this will not take long?" "What is your hurry, Sar? And what could be more important than discussing the preparations for the coming king?" inquired Nagad. Sar fixed his eyes on Nagad. "I would never presume that anything could be more important than the coming king. However, I have some preparations of my own to attend to. So why not just fill me in later on your discussion?" "Very well." Sar did not hesitate. "I will be looking forward to it," he added as he darted off. "There was something very strange going on, Nagad. Did you notice how preoccupied Sar was and how quickly he hurried off?" Nagad shrugged his shoulders. "He is probably bogged down with preparations for his gathering." Shotar paused for a moment. "Yes, the gathering, which is all the more reason he should stay. I get the feeling that this will be no ordinary gathering. You heard Orr in the meeting. He told all of us present there would be major events leading up to the coming of the king, and they would begin with his gathering." Nagad squinted, trying to focus on Sar as he disappeared from their view. "I wonder what Orr meant by that. That is why I wanted to discuss our assignments. I believe Sar knows what he meant. Did you hear Orr's final words to him? Go and do what you must do? I think something extraordinary is going to take place at Sar's palace. Perhaps Sar will be revealing more insight into what the king will be like. But it seems strange that he would go toward the northern transport." The calm breeze suddenly picked up. Shotar and Nagad closed their eyes to enjoy the comfort and peace that always seemed to follow this type of wind. They each took a deep breath and refocused their thoughts, which now seemed clearer. "We should go after him and offer our help," suggested Nagad. This drew a nod of agreement from Shotar, and the 2 headed in the direction of Sar. Shotar and Nagad arrived at the northern transport only to find that Sar was not there. After thoroughly searching the transit area, they approached the Malak operating the transport. "Have you seen Sar?" Shotar asked. "No, he has not come by here," responded the operator. Nagad looked sharply at Shotar. "Would he have gone to the northern sector?" Nagad whispered. "For what reason?" Shotar paused for a moment, and a hint of suspicion flashed across his eyes. "Unless it has something to do with Orr's final orders to him." "I doubt that. We all know there is no reason to enter the northern sector until after the king arrives. There are no preparations to be done to the area." Shotar's stomach jumped as he remembered how many times Sar had recently visited the northern sector. Not wanting to draw attention to his misgivings, he volunteered to go find him. Sarah paused before waving her hand in the air. She did not want to interrupt Rashawn's reading, but found herself confused. Nagad and Shotar are Malik princes, right? But Rashawn, I don't remember what they are in charge of. Could you please refresh my memory? Rashawn broke from his reading to remind the children of who they were. When he looked up, the theater screen froze with Shotar and Nagad in position. Nagad is the angelic prince that is accountable for the Stone of Fire, Adam. Remember, he is the prince of the messengers, master of communication for all of the stones of fire. Shotar oversees the 5 stones of fire, but is primarily concerned with Afar. Remember, he is commander at heart and the prince of the Maliks. Shotar's strength and logic are famous throughout the cosmos. Actually, Sar, Nagad, and Shotar are Or's 3 closest angelics. They all work closely together, Rashawn summarized. Sar manages the angelics of the cosmos, Nagad manages the communications, and Shotar manages the transactions between the stones. Together, these 3 run a tight cosmos. Immediately, Rashawn returned to the page and began reading, which caused the screen to come back to life. As Shotar approached the northern sector, he found Sar standing just short of its perimeter. He appeared to be in a daze. "You seem preoccupied with the northern sector," Shotar's comment startled Sar. The two stood looking at the beautiful mountains and the sapphire throne high in the midst of them. "Is there something you're not telling me?" Sar slowly turned his head, somewhat surprised at the question. "I'm not sure I understand the query, Shotar." "Oh, come on, Sar. You act as if I were not in the meeting. There will be many events to take place before the arrival of the king, and they will begin with your gathering. I also heard Or tell you to quickly go and do what you must do." Sar looked back to the scenery as he thought a moment. "Honestly, Shotar, I do not know what Or meant by that. I have nothing out of the ordinary planned for the gathering, nor is there anything pressing I must do." Shotar shot Sar a look. "Then why were you in such a rush to leave?" Sar acted as if he had not heard Shotar's question and continued to stare ahead. Shotar became uncomfortable with Sar's unusual enthrallment with the northern sector. He joined him for only a moment more, then carefully took Sar's arm and began to escort him away from the area. He was quite disturbed by Sar's continual glances back. "Sar, you know we have no reason to enter this sector. Come on, you have a gathering scheduled at your palace. Shotar, do you want to visit it again?" And with that said, Sar turned back to pursue his quest. "I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable with this," said Shotar. "Do as you wish, but I will not be joining you," he concluded as he turned and headed back to Salem. "Fine," Sar thought. He took a deep breath and headed back to the northern sector's perimeter. He continued past the perimeter and slowly toward the mountains. A full spectrum of color danced across the Jasper Valley floor from the brilliant gem mountains. But Sar hardly noticed the breathtaking beauty. He had his eyes fixed on something else, the sapphire throne. "It is my job to prepare for the king. I must go and inspect the throne," Sar said, trying to rationalize his desire. Closer and closer he moved toward the throne. His skin prickled with anticipation. His eyes started to squint, for the translucent alabaster rock from which the throne rose had become nearly too bright to observe. He fought the overwhelming urge to turn back. His steps began to slow even more. The closer he got, the stronger the urge to turn back became, until it was almost unbearable, but he pressed on. "If only I could sit on the throne," he whispered, "just for a moment." Suddenly, he was driven back by an unfamiliar force. Before he realized what was happening, he was outside of the northern sector and far from the throne. With his skin still prickling, he turned and walked away, uttering, "I'll try that again later." During Sar's approach to the northern sector, the theater screen divided into 2 separate images. The events were shown simultaneously. However, the odd thing was that Rashawn was only reading about Sar's approach and desire to sit on the throne. The other was an encoded message in the text that the children were privy to witness. A small section of the screen displayed a portion of the outer edge in the cosmos. A small herd of Abirs was treasure hunting and had passed the western part of the outer edge when a portal resembling a black hole opened up. There was no discussion or sound from that part of the screen, only a visual. As Sar spoke, the portal enlarged. Then when Sar turned to leave, the small, divided portion closed and the screen returned to only following Rashawn's words. "Did we see the outer edge on our tour?" asked Andrew. Aaron responded, "I remember flying over that large dark area, but I don't know if that was the outer edge." Rashawn heard the comments among the children when the portal appeared. He decided it was important to explain the outer edge. "Remember during the tour when our shuttle traveled away from the stones of fire toward the bottom of the sphere, and we saw a layer of darkness between us and Olympia? That is the outer edge," Rashawn informed them. "We did not notice it as we came into the cosmos because we traveled from Olympia. It simply reflected Or's light, making it undetectable. But when we traveled from the cosmos, moving outward back toward Olympia, it became obvious. From that direction, the outer edge appeared to have a beautiful sheen over its darkness that waved like fabric. The outer edge acts like a huge barrier that is being pulled back, uncovering hidden treasures tucked away by Or." "Treasures like gold?" Simon quietly asked. "What kind of barrier can surround a sphere and simultaneously move outward?" Morse questioned in a disbelieving tone. Rashawn realized that the outer edge was a difficult concept for the children to grasp. He reminded them, "Remember, we are viewing a universe that functions in 10 dimensions. Or is expanding the universal sphere, and as he does, Olympia moves. The best way to explain the outer edge is to say that it is attached to Olympia's borders, acting like a sheen or a wall of darkness that is being pulled over the area that Olympia once occupied. The outer edge moves outward as the sphere expands. It is the outward motion of Olympia that pulls the outer edge, causing it to uncover areas that Olympia once inhabited. That makes the universal sphere sound like a big balloon being filled with air," Joshua stated. "Well, that would be one way to describe it," Rashawn replied. "Olympia pushes the outer blackness within the great unknown away by expanding its size, which in turn pushes the blackness further away from the stones of fire. Olympia itself does not increase in size, only the cosmos does. As Olympia pushes the blackness away and expands, it allows the cosmos to increase and inhabit the areas that were once in Olympia's territory. As the areas move from Olympia's territories to the outer edge, Or places the treasures there for the angelics to discover. The treasures, are they gold and silver? Andrew repeated Joshua's question. Rashawn grinned. No, these treasures are not gold and silver. They are secrets of their age. They consist of new stars, instruments, jewels of the sky, and some things we would not fully understand, like black portals. It is the duty of the Abirs and Meleks to announce all discoveries to Nagad, Prince of Adam, so that these findings can be documented. Black portals? What are those? Morris asked. The black portals are locked passages to the blackness beyond the universe. They are to be left alone, and the angelics know this. Remember in the northern sector, we learned about the prophecy and certain gifts that were not to be touched? Rashawn quieted after reminding the children of this. He wanted to make sure they all remembered the prophecy. After a brief moment, he continued, These black portals are where the dangerous gifts would appear. As long as the gifts were not received, the portals remain locked and the outer blackness is no threat to the universe. So the outer edge doesn't get bigger as it moves out, right? Inquired Rachel, still trying to wrap her mind around the concept of the outer edge and the universe's expansion. No, the outer edge and Olympia remain the same size in width, which I believe is what you were asking. However, they both expand in circumference, Rashawn replied. Rashawn felt satisfied that the children now understood the concept of the outer edge. He looked one last time at the frozen screen of Sar walking away from the northern sector. The first word Rashawn read reactivated the images. Shotar hurried back and caught up with Nagad. Did you find him? Asked Nagad. Before Shotar could answer, the wind picked up. Their attention was drawn upward to the majestic trees where they could hear the wind whistling through the branches. The trees swayed in a manner they had never seen before. Angelics throughout Salem paused momentarily to observe this phenomenon. Shotar directed his attention back to Nagad just long enough to answer his question. Yes, he was on the brink of entering the northern sector. I am serious. Something very strange is going on with Sar. As the two continued to look around at the effects of the wind, Nagad replied, Sar's behavior does not appear to be the only thing unusual.